This is your city. This is your city wants to know. We want to know the background, the heartbeat of what makes up our beautiful cities. We dig into the backstories from the struggles to the successes of our local entrepreneurs, small business owners, artists, not-for-profit organizations, and the many, many people who make up the intricate tapestry of our communities. Real people, real stories, by you and for you. But wait, that's not it. I love giving my opinion. Just ask anyone who knows me. We can't get enough of the honest, gritty feedback of places that we spend our hard-earned money. I'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly of the places I eat, sleep, and visit. Disclaimer, my opinion only. All right, so come on, let's get to it.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to an episode of This is Your City. As always, I'm Kim, your host. And it turns out I'm hot after all. I know you've never heard me say something like that. I'm wondering what you thought of when you first heard that. Were you thinking, wow, she's confident? Or were you thinking, wow, she's full of herself? Either way, I bet you when I said that, it got your attention. That is an amazing title, and it happens to be the title of an international best-selling book. My guest today, whom I'm going to introduce in a second, that's the title. Turns out, I'm hot after all. Her name is Katti Power. I love the last name, and we'll talk about that later too. But she's not just an international best-selling author. She's also a performance and leadership coach and a vocal coach, Sing Without Limits. I love that as well. And as a performance and leadership coach, she is revolutionizing the way executive leaders, speakers, presenters, how they show up powerfully so they can gain influence and take control of any room with authority. Hashtag power. And when she's not powering up with her guests, she can be found in her most favorite place in the world, and that is her kitchen. She loves to cook authentic Italian food and then pair it up with the perfect wine. And I love her already. So my guest, Katti Power. Katti, welcome to This Is Your City. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
You're well? You're doing well?
Yes, very well, yes.
You know, that title just grabs anybody and everybody, and I'm sure that's part of the point, right? But
Yes.
with all of these things that you have accomplished, all of these things you have to be proud of and that you're striving for to even in more and better, because we always have to strive for more and better, right?
Absolutely, yes.
You know, for our listeners, if you can, and my viewers, if you can imagine this, and I hope you cannot imagine this, but try. 17-year marriage ending in a text. Yeah, you heard me. So she's got so much going on, but it didn't all start there. There's a lot of pain. And Katti, as you know, a lot of times striving to get places and to reach our goals and our dreams and visions, there's sometimes pain. Most often there's pain, but not a 17-year marriage ending in a text. And I know you've said, I've told this story over and over, Katti, and I'm just really thankful that you're willing to say and tell your story again, because I believe there's more people out there who can relate, who need to hear it. Maybe not 17-year marriage ending in a text, but pain to power. Pain to power. We should pen that, pain to power.
Yes.
Maybe there's probably a book called that already. I have no idea.
I love that.
But, let's start there. And then we'll get into all of the stuff that you're accomplishing. 17 years. Take us to that moment, please.
Yes. So we were married for 17 years. And, I always say that It was like I drove home from my honeymoon with a stranger.
Mm.
So we had intimacy issues the entire 17 years. I don't know what happened, but for some reason, once we got married, he was not interested in physical intimacy whatsoever.
Was he before?
Well, we were, at the time, we were Christians, and we decided that we were going to wait. Even though we had both messed that up before we met each other, we decided we were going to wait. I honestly think that should have been my first signal. But so we waited, and the honeymoon was amazing. And then it was downhill from there. And I don't know what happened. We were in and out of counseling for this issue. And consequently, I developed the belief that it must be me. There must be something that I'm doing wrong. There must be something that I can fix that will cause him to be interested in me. You know, like a lot of us women draw that kind of conclusion. Yes. And so I was constantly doing whatever I could to accommodate him, thinking, well, what if I try this? Then maybe he'll love me. Maybe I'll try this. And that extended to everything from like weight loss plans all the way to following him all over the country for his work, doing, absolutely everything I could to see if I could inspire him to be interested in me.
Do you think for a second maybe he was gay?
I sure did. I asked him a couple times, which of course, that's very touchy and didn't go over very well. But yep, that definitely is something that came up for me. I thought maybe he's hiding that. I'm still not sure what the answer is. And we both had affairs. So I had an affair, he had an affair, and then his text was while he was having another affair. Yeah. And so, yeah, I in addition to the lack of physical intimacy, there also was, he was not someone who said, you're beautiful, or, you're hot, you're sexy, any of those. Like, he just didn't say any of those things to me. And so even if I asked, like, I remember going through counseling and talking about things and bringing that up, and he even if asked would not say it. And I was just like, what is the deal here? He said, I love you all the time, but he never said those things. And he knew I needed to hear them. And I think the thing that was the hardest for me about during that time was he knew that those were important things to me to hear, and that physical intimacy was important. And he just wouldn't do it, even though he knew it was so important to me. And I now think that there were a whole bunch of other things going on, possibly some control issues, there's a whole lot of other stuff that could have been going on. I'm not really sure, but the main lesson that I learned, so I was sort of on this journey with my clients, with my own self. But one of the things that I teach my clients in our work is that they have the power to decide how people are going to perceive them, how the outcome of the things that they desire, that's actually about a decision. And I learned from Jen Sincero in her book, You Are a Badass, that the root of the word decision means to cut off all other possibility so that nothing else can happen. And so when I would tell my clients, you have the power to decide that you're going to win this competition. You have to truly decide. And when you truly decide, you're letting go of the possibility of anything else happen. So it's not a wish list thing. So what occurred to me somewhere in the middle of all that was, hey, you know what? I have the same power to decide these things.
it's so much more difficult for us to accept that for ourselves.
Oh my God, or to even see it, right?
To
And
give it,
so
yeah.
I was able to decide, you know what? I am sexy. I am desirable. I am hot. I am beautiful. And when I made that decision, everything changed in my life. Everything. It was like this massive, and people noticed, like it was this huge shift inside me, and people noticed to the point, I say this all the time, but my mom at one point, this just cracks me up still. This was shortly after, like after I kind of realized all this stuff and had made these changes, we were standing in line somewhere and she said, "You know who you remind me of?" And I was like, "Your daughter?" Like, what kind of a question is that? And so we laughed for a little bit. She was like, "No, I know that sounds weird." She said, "But you know, something's different about you. You look different." And I was like, "Well, I lost a little bit of weight because of all this divorce crap." And she said, "No, it's not a weight thing. It's like your face. You just look different."
Yeah.
And not a week or two later, a friend of mine who we haven't been in person very much. She lives in Mexico. She was watching some video content that we were both in, and she said, "You know, I was watching this video and you came on and I almost didn't recognize you because you look so different." And I
Like
was
your
like,
aura changed.
"Yeah." And you know what I think it is? I relate it to when someone dies and they're in the casket or whatever, and they don't look the same at all. And it's because their soul is not there.
Right.
We're not attracted to that physical, it's their soul. And something about them has died. And so we don't really recognize them. And I think that's what happened to me. Something about me died. That old, like, yucky energy I was carrying around, it died. And people physically thought I looked different.
Well, confidence is very attractive.
Yes,
And so you were probably gaining some confidence because you decided
absolutely.
you're hot, you're sexy, you're beautiful, you're worthy. That confidence makes you stand taller, makes you look different.
It did.
And
And
I
it
wish
did.
women would recognize, me included, because women tend to do this. I wish we could recognize that
Yes.
confidence it attracts, not just sexual attraction, but it attracts confidence.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, it's probably
No, that's,
people saw in you.
yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that's a lot of what it is. I was walking in this newfound power
Yeah.
because it was a decision that I had made that nothing else could cut off, nothing else could happen except that. And I was owning it. And even if I had to wake up every single day and make that decision, I still made it. And things changed around me as a result. I saw myself differently. Definitely other people saw me differently. But I think the thing that I learned that was the most important, that I wish I had learned earlier, yes and no, was that I could have made this decision a long time ago.
Yeah.
I think that it was an unhealthy marriage. And so for that reason, I'm glad that I'm out. But if I had learned that earlier, I'm not sure what would have been different. You
Yeah.
know?
We really can't, like, what if,
True.
right? We don't know.
And it's pointless.
Right. It just keeps you in this, like, cycle.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Katie. Why do you think women compromise themselves so much in relationships? Like, most times, one time or another in a relationship, whether it be her, him, or both, people can be broken, right? But why do you think women tend to compromise so much in a relationship?
I think that's a question I've been asking myself a lot. I think that we just I think we have an innate nurturing side of ourselves. And, I'm not a mom, but I hear a lot from a lot of mom friends that there's this very sacrificial element of being a mom where you kind of put everything aside for someone else. I think that's part of just feminine. I don't know. It's just part of who we are, I think. And
You're right. Yeah.
I think we have to fight some of that, I think there's advantage to it, but we can't let it override who we are.
Yeah.
And
And sorry.
and no, that's okay. And I think that's what happened to me, and I know it's what happens to a lot of women, that we get lost in the identity of being sacrificial
Yes.
and accommodating.
Yes. And then we forget self-love.
Absolutely. And then we find ourselves in settling mode.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we put other people first. We put other people's needs before ours, and we think that we are being loving and giving, but we're not, because we're not loving ourselves, and it's taking away. There's a giving that is an extension of yourself, and there's a giving that's drawing from yourself. And to me, that's a giving that's drawing from yourself if you're not secure in who you are first. And I definitely wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, my husband and I have never had affairs on each other, but we have gone through the ringer and back, and I'm sure we will again someday. But it's hard to when you lose yourself. And you're right. And
Yeah.
most women, somewhere in that, whether you're married or you're not married, but we're nurturers and we just tend to lose ourselves. And then it
Yes.
takes something for us to get that power.
Yeah.
So when did you decide to write this book? Turns out I'm hot after all. Like, great title.
Thank you. Yeah. Right after he left me, I did some sort of work on myself right away. I'm actually currently visiting California, and across the street from here is where I was where I went after it happened. My cousins live across the street, and I went to their place. And I sat out on their patio with a notebook and just did a whole lot of work on myself and introspective. What do I want out of life? What are my goals? Because I was trying to figure out, am I going to fight for this marriage like I always have? Or
Right.
am I going to let him go?
Yeah.
And after 48 hours of doing this introspective work on myself and all these goals that I had laid out, all these plans I had for my life, I looked up at the gorgeous sunset ahead of me and I was like, I have a life to live, and it doesn't include him.
Right.
And that's when I realized this is something that, well, in that moment, I didn't realize it. It was later that I realized it. But that was the moment that I realized that I needed to let him go.
Right.
And I continued the journey of working on myself. And what I realized, in addition to the decision, really my whole healing process was all the same steps that I take my clients through in order to help them achieve huge things. And so at some point, a few months later, I started dating at the end of that year, the very last week of that year. So this happened in August, very last week of December, I started dating. And let me just tell you, online dating after being married for 17 years and you're in your 40s, it's weird.
Gosh,
It's the weirdest thing in the world. And so my initial idea was, I'm going to write a book about online dating in your 40s during a pandemic. And that was my initial thought. And I was like, well, someday I'll do that. And my cousins gave me a very premature divorce party. And they gave me this journal. I don't have it with me, but I would show it to you. But it's a little journal. And on the cover, it says, hopefully I'm allowed to say this here, but it says, your vagina deserved much better anyway.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
So I was like, I'm going to document all of my dating adventures in here so I can write this book.
Yeah.
Well, then fast forward to about 9 months after that happened. So this is a little over a year after he left me. I was in a class with a colleague of mine who is an author coach, and she was talking about this workshop she was going to offer called the 4-Hour Author. And I was like, huh? What? I can write a book in 4 hours? Well, that's not really what the class is. It's basically how to structure it. Anyway, but so I, of course, took this class and we had a conversation and she said, so she helps people take the work that they do and write a book about it to help further their business.
Nice. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, my book isn't like that. My book is about dating in my 40s. And she was like, okay, so I think maybe I need you to tell me your story about what happened to you again, because maybe I'm just not understanding. So I explained my whole, what happened with my divorce and all that stuff. And she was like, I don't get how you're not seeing this. You followed your own steps to heal yourself, the same ones that you work on with your clients. And I was like, oh my God, I did. And so then when I had that reality check, it was like, this is important.
This is important.
People need to hear this. I need to write this now. So I got in her class and learned how to write it, and I wrote it. I spent 3 weekends just kind of hardcore writing, and I got it done. And
3 weekends?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I've been trying to write a book for almost a year now. It's like, oh my gosh, but
Well, I've got a great hookup. And then I got it edited and I did the self-publishing route. And so I decided, this is totally my sense of humor. I decided to launch my book on Valentine's Day because I thought that would be funny. And yeah, before noon, I hit international bestseller.
oh my gosh, Katie, before noon, the day
Before
you put
noon.
it out?
Yeah.
Like you must have been, when you watch like the politics and people are at the TV waiting for the numbers.
Yes.
Were you like just watching and like going, oh my gosh, what's happening?
I would love to say that I was. I was up very late the night before. So one of the things that I did, I made a little audio recording, and there's a way to get it inside my book, to get the audio recording I did. And I was up so late recording that. It was just me reading the book.
Right.
And then I went to bed. And when I woke up, I'm in Pacific time and my coach is in Eastern. And I had all these messages from her, look what you did. So I woke up to discover that I was already I had hit international bestseller, but I didn't hit #1 internationally until later that day. But nationally, I was already #1 in several categories.
Wow.
Before I woke up. So I kind of woke up to it.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
And all of that pain, you put it in words, you put it on paper, like a journal almost.
Yeah.
Put it out there for people to read.
Yeah. Can I just tell you, the whole time I was like, I'm so excited. It was very surreal. And then once it was live, all of a sudden it was like this huge gulp. And I have an acting background. I'm very skilled at being vulnerable and authentic and real and stripped down and all of that. But there's something about pressing that, live or whatever button. And it was just like, I just put out there for the world to read my business.
Yeah. About business.
Yeah. But I got so many responses from people just like, thank you so much for writing this.
Yes. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And can I just say, this is probably bad for me to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Good for you. Like, this is rubbing it in his face. You know what? Like, yeah, really? You're not going to keep me down. I'm actually going to soar even higher. And
Yeah. It's so funny because that was never, ever even on my radar. Because when I had those 48 hours later, when I was like, I have a life to live and it doesn't include him, I legit let go. Like, I didn't even care.
Right.
And I think that pissed him off. Because he started messing with me after that.
Yeah. Like wanting you back, messing with you?
Oh
Like,
God, no.
no.
Thankfully, we haven't run into that yet. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping we won't.
How did he react to the book? Like, how was he like,
Oh, I don't even know if he knows. I assume he knows. I don't know.
Mhm.
I haven't. I blocked him kind of everywhere. So because I got tired of seeing his face because we have a million friends in common, and so I just got tired of seeing his name show up all over my
Yeah.
social media, and I was like, no, block.
Yeah.
Because it was, every time I saw his name, it would just kind of, just give me this sort of
Yeah.
guttural reaction that I was like, no, I can't think about that. It would just distract me from wherever I was. And so so I don't know. I don't even know if he knows. I assume he does, but I don't know.
And it doesn't even matter because you know
I
what?
don't care.
You did all this without him.
Yeah.
And you can just say, you know what? Thank you for some content.
Right? Definitely. And thank you for letting me go, for releasing me so that I could have a life.
Yeah.
Right after that, right after he left, I was asked to judge 3 international singing competitions. One of them was in Sweden. So I got to travel internationally by myself for the first time. Like that was so liberating. It was such an emotional, I mean, I love traveling and I do it all the time and it's not a big deal, but that one was a big deal because it was solo.
Yeah. Yeah.
I booked all of it by myself and I was just like, I don't know, there were so many little things.
Well, the thing to remember for my listeners and viewers to remember, like I love traveling. I love my own company. I go on my own dates. I go for my own coffee. I travel by myself. Not that my
Yes.
husband doesn't with me, but I'm so confident in that. But I wasn't married for 17 years. Like my husband and I have only been married 9 years, coming up. So I wasn't married for 17 years. And 17 years ago was a different world than it is today.
Amen.
So
Yeah.
everything is different solo
So different.
today. So for
Yeah.
you to do that, that is so empowering and freeing, and shackles are being broken. And oh, I love it. That's awesome. Now, your book I haven't read the book yet.
That's
And
okay.
I am getting it. Do you have it with you by any chance or no?
I don't. I meant to grab one before I left.
That was
Yeah,
very nice
I'm away from home, so
for us who are in California, right?
yeah.
But I am gonna get this book, and I'm probably gonna like lend it to every single girl. Not lend, I'm gonna tell them to buy it all and beg it. But in your book, you have 5 components of power.
Yeah,
Can you speak on that right now? I know.
absolutely. I'm going to bring them up on my screen because I like to be accurate.
And I do apologize because sometimes I'll send out questions I'm gonna ask so you can be prepared. And I didn't send you any because
That's
the
okay.
last moment I'm like, you know what, I really want to know this. And I didn't send that out. So
No, that's great. No, there are, yes, I talk about 5 components of power, and really this doesn't matter what kind of work you do. It doesn't matter what kind of personal life. It's important to all of it. And so the 5, I'll tell you what the 5 are, and then I'll break them down a little bit. So the 5 components of power are, number 1 is decision, which we talked about briefly. Influence, authority, authenticity, and confidence. When you have those 5 things humming along, power has a great foothold for you. It's a great place for you to hang out. So decision, I consider, I have this on my website too. It's a great little reference, but it's a commitment, like in an unwavering kind of way, that it's not something that you are. I always say the difference between a decision and not a decision. A lot of times people think they're making decisions, but it's really more of a, oh, I wish it could be, or wouldn't this be nice if, which I call a wish list.
yes.
There's a big difference between a decision and a wish list. So a decision is an unwavering commitment to whatever it is that you desire, whether it's a goal, whether it's a change in your life, any of those kinds of things. it's an unwavering commitment to that. It also involves boundaries, because sometimes in the process of making decisions, you need to have healthy boundaries in place. That's something I didn't have before. Influence. Influence is, it's one of my favorite things to talk about. I teach people how to meet the expectations of other people by using the power of suggestion. There's a way that you can sort of let people know what it is that they should be expecting of you, so that you can go ahead and meet it. That's what I teach people how to do that.
Oh, wait. Sorry.
Yeah.
Say that again, because I love
Yeah.
that. What? Say it again.
So I teach people how to sort of tell other people what to expect of them. So it's all subconsciously. You just how to subconsciously let other people know what they should expect of you, so that then you can meet those expectations.
Oh, I love that.
Yes. And so I call that influence. It's the mastery of that. Authority, I think we all know what authority is, but like a command of respect, commanding attention,
Owning it.
yes, owning it. And it's all a result of how you show up, how you choose to show up.
Yeah.
Authenticity, the practice of being completely real and open and vulnerable, as a means of connection. I think that, a lot of times in the presentation world, whether you're singing, talking, selling, a lot of times people feel like they have to put on or be totally put together and have all the ducks in a row and all that kind of stuff. And then the audience isn't relating.
Yes.
We have to the priority has to be on being real, being vulnerable. Yeah, and transparent. I call vulnerability a superpower. And a lot of people think it's a horrible thing that should be shoved under a rug. And so then that leaves us with confidence, which to me is, I say this on my site, it's the embodiment of belief that your deepest desires are already yours. So it's just a knowing, it's a mindset. It is to me, it's its own version of power altogether. Just the embodiment of basically that decision that you made. That's step number one.
I love it. All right. So break them down again.
Yeah. So decision, that unwavering commitment. Influence is meeting other people's expectations through the power of suggestion. Authority is commanding attention, respect, just owning it. Authenticity, using that vulnerability as a superpower, as a means of connecting with other people. And confidence being the embodiment of the belief that the deepest desires are already yours. So the embodiment of the decision you make.
I love it. I love it. And so, Katie, your book isn't just about, a woman's marital journey of, not having sexual intercourse with her husband, not making love, not having sex, not doing anything. You're just in a sexless
friends.
Roommate,
Yes.
Your book is not about that and your journey as a woman through it. Your book is also teaching other people how to advance and own. So you can use it in business, you can use it in your personal life, you can use it anywhere in life. And the goal is basically to build steps to own your own power.
Yes, absolutely. So the core of the book is about how to get your power back. For whatever reason you may have lost it.
Yes.
Or never had it. It's how to get it back. And I just use the story of being left by my ex and how I got my own power back as the sort of through line, as the example. But there are also all kinds of examples of my clients. Mm-hmm. There are a couple of examples from my dating life. It's just, but the whole point of it is basically how to get your power back. And my last name is my own creation. So
well, that's what I said at the very beginning. Let's get into your name.
Yes.
One of my closest friends growing up, her name was Power. But so I'm going to get into that. So I want people to go and get your book. I truly want people
Thank you. Yes.
Especially women. I mean, it's for men and women. It's not just for women. But and the older I get, Katie, I really feel women are really like superheroes, and we just
Yes.
don't get it. We don't
Or don't
see
see
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more I'm like, man, women rock. We really are a powerful creature. So anybody can get this book. It's for men and women, but my love for women as I get older, because we need to be strong and unite. Get this book. Turns out I'm hot after all. I mean,
Yes.
get it. And they can find it everywhere, right? Like,
Yes, it's on Amazon. The best way to get it is from my website. That's the easiest place, which is just turnsoutimhot.com.
so simple. Turnsouti'mhot.com.
Yep. There's an ebook. There is a paperback. If you get the paperback from my website, turnsoutimhot.com, I will sign it before I send it to you. And I'm working on an Audible. There is a little download of the audio version of it inside the book as a gift. But I am working on an official Audible that I'll put out one of these days. So
And your coaching career, you have
yes.
give us just a quick rundown of I want to do more and more, but for time's sake, like I
No,
don't
yeah.
want to miss anything that you have to offer people.
Yeah. So the primary thing that I'm working on I've made a little bit of a shift this year. Something that I am extremely passionate about that I've sort of put on the back burner and brought it forward and put it back on the back burner. I'm extremely passionate about vocal health. And I know that seems weird, but I lost my voice a long time ago and on a cruise ship contract, and I had to leave, and it was awful. And I put myself on vocal rest to heal from that. And in the process, I wanted to figure out how I got myself in that mess and how to make sure I never got there again. And I figured out a system for permanent vocal health so that you don't ever lose your voice. And in my industry, it sounds like I'm talking about aliens or something. It sounds like the weirdest thing in the world, because the belief is that losing your voice is as normal as getting a cold. It's just something that's going to happen. You have to expect it. And I've proven over 2 decades that that's really not the case. So I've been working on, I want to reach a different audience. I want to reach the big time singers that are canceling shows because they lose their voices, disappointing fans, costing lots of people millions of dollars just for canceling shows because they lost their voice. And it's totally preventable. And there are a lot of singers that are getting steroid injections into the vocal cords so that they can go on. And that's a great little stopgap in an emergency, but you shouldn't be doing it all the time. It's not healthy. And so that's kind of, what I'm all about in terms of singing and performing is powerful singing. Powerful. I teach people how to sing with incredible amounts of power without any kind of limitation, including losing your voice. And so I've been kind of focusing on the voice loss part recently because I really desire to help those people. I want them to discover that it's completely possible.
Yes. That's Sing Without Limits.
Yeah, so Sing Without Limits is my vocal coaching business that I've had for, it's in various names. I've had it for almost 22 years. I've been doing that. Yeah, I used to perform professionally, and then I lost my voice. And when I came back, this is kind of a really cool story. This gal, she was a teenager at the time. She kept seeing me in a band, and she kept saying every week, like, "Can you just teach me to sing like you?" And I was like, "No, I don't do that. I'm not a teacher. That's not, Well, she wore me down, and I made up this cheesy brochure for her to give to her parents, so she'd have something, think I'm not some kind of crazy person.
Right.
And I went over to her house, taught her lesson. I was so nervous beforehand because I was like, "Well, I don't know what I'm doing." But I figured out what I was going to teach her. I taught her the lesson. I went back to my car and I sobbed. And I was like, how did I not see that this is what I should be doing with my life?
Oh, wow.
And I fell in love with it. Well, she had other plans. She took that cheesy brochure. She marched into her fine arts director's office, handed it to him and said, "You need to hire her." And he called me and he hired me. And so all of a sudden, I had 40 students and a choir. And I've
Nice.
been doing it ever since.
You have some great stories of how things happen in your life.
Thanks. Yeah, it's kind of
My
weird.
husband's a musician. He sings, so yeah. People are asking him all the time, how does he get that power? It's not even like a loud like but
Right.
it doesn't end sort of thing. So I understand
Yeah.
he gets vocal tired, but
Yeah.
that's a whole story. So that's
Yeah.
what's going on with you right now, with everything going on. So before we end time,
Yes.
I want to get to your name. Okay.
Yes.
So I want to
Yes.
talk about Katti Power.
Yes.
That's your name. So tell me about that, because you said you made it up. What does that mean?
I did. I actually made up both parts.
Not Katie as well?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I spell my name very strangely for those of you listening. And when I was 14, I decided that my parents named me Catherine, so I should be able to spell Katie however I want. And so, so I changed it. And one winter break, I was bored and I made a list of 23 different possible ways to spell Katie. And I went around and like polled my family. There was a huge family gathering and I got down to the top 5 and then I picked from there. And Katti was the one that I picked. And I picked it because it's musical. Because in music, the bass, like the upright bass or the bass clef or anything like that, is a long A followed by 2 consonants. And I thought, well, hey, if bass can be spelled like that and pronounced like that, then surely Katie can be too. Long A followed by 2 consonants. And, I was 14, so I was in love with names that ended in I. So that's how that came to be. And then Power, that was a decision I made. That was one of the first decisions I made right after he left me. Because I took his name when I got married, which was Powell. And I thought, you know what? And a lot of my work was, Powell this, Powell that. And I was like, well, I have to change that. I don't want to be carrying that around with me forever. So I decided, the word power is something that I talk about power all the time. I use the word in everything. And I have this hashtag power up and I'm always using, the fire emojis and all that. Like, this is a huge piece of who I am. So why don't I make my last name Power? It sounds very similar to Powell.
Yep.
So I decided to make that change. I haven't done it legally yet because our divorce was dragged out forever. And so it finally happened. So now I can finally do it, but I haven't done it yet. I'm going to wait. I have a trip coming up, so I'm going to wait until after that so I can change all my ID later. But someone posted recently, I'm just going to share this because I thought it was fascinating, that some kind of like introduce yourself by telling us what your name means.
I love it.
Yeah. And so I thought, okay, so normally when I do that, I'll either look up Catherine or I'll look up Katie, the normal way people spell it, or one of the normal ways. And this time I thought, you know what? I'm going to look up my spelling, see if I can find it, see if it exists, see if I can find anything. Now, it was in the Urban Dictionary, so I know that that's like Wikipedia. It's kind of like you enter it, people enter those things themselves. So I have no idea how this entry got in there. But Katti shows up in there, and it says the definition of it is a person of power. And I was like, what? So I named myself a person of power at age 14, and then at 44, named myself Power.
That is incredible. Yeah. A person power, double power.
Yes. Power squared.
I love it. And I love you had said something like, you said, I will no longer tolerate playing small in myself or in my clients. I intend to fully embody my new name in everything I do.
Yes.
I am
Katti Power. Yeah.
Oh, Man, that's powerful stuff.
Yeah. It was a declaration for me. It was a wholehearted, that's the last chapter of my book. I talk about that. The little Urban Dictionary thing came after I wrote my book, so that was a recent thing. But there's a whole chapter in the book about declaration, because once you have your power, I think it's important to make some kind of declaration like that. Like, this is who I am, and whether you like it or not.
Exactly.
Because it's not about you.
It's not about you. Because I'm hot.
Yeah. Right.
Love that. Well, Katie, I'm
Yes.
so happy that you decided to stop by and share your story with us.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having me.
oh man, like the book, your coaching, your cooking Italian food, your
Yes.
vocal coaching. You have a lot going on. You have a lot to offer people. Who knows? You know what? You might even have a book about cooking or a show about authentic Italian cuisine. You're
I
going to end
do
up
have a URL that I bought several years ago. I called
Oh.
pepperandparm.com, because I thought someday if I ever do anything with cooking, that's where I want it to live, because to me, black pepper and Parmesan cheese have to be part of everything.
But you see, that's another power move that people you need to own something. I always say this, my guests, my listeners hear me say it all the time. There's a difference between a dream and a vision.
Amen.
And I always, you hear people say dream, dream. And I'm always saying have a vision. Because if you dream, which is great, it tends to stay there.
Stay out there.
Yes,
Yes.
there somewhere. But a vision you work towards. And you had a vision and you bought a URL, right? You didn't dream it, you envisioned it and you did it.
Yes.
So they would say just envision and it'll help you obtain quicker, I believe anyway.
Yeah, I think that's very similar to what I was saying about decision versus wish list.
Yes.
Because wish list keeps it out there. It opens the door of possibility that it might not happen. It becomes this, wouldn't it be nice someday, maybe, possibly, instead of, no, I'm owning this is happening, and nothing else is happening.
Exactly. So thank you for that. Thank you for letting us know that, no matter what we're going through, how we feel or perceive ourselves, because life has a way sometimes of, especially women again, making us just pile on stuff who we forget who we are and we compromise, and we're always asking for permission.
Ugh, yes.
To be our best selves, or to be hot, to be great,
to exist. That's my recent thing, is that I feel like I see a pattern in my life of asking permission to exist.
Yeah, no, see.
So gross.
This book is going to help a lot of people take control and say, yeah, I can do this too. So
absolutely.
It might have been therapeutic for you, but I really believe it's also going to be therapeutic for a lot of people out there. I mean, obviously it is already. You're an international bestseller. So
thank you.
It's already, winning people over. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. That is totally my hope. It's why I did it. It's what lit a fire under me to do it so quickly, because I was like, this is important. People need to know this.
Turns out I'm hot.com.
Yes.
Turns out I'm hot.com. Thank you so much. And my listeners, I'm so appreciative that you tuned in once again. Thank you so much. It does not go unnoticed. I appreciate you dearly. As I always say, don't forget to share, to tweet, to like, to subscribe, send a pigeon, whatever you have to do. Tell everybody they should be listening to This Is Your City. Stay safe, stay blessed. Ciao. And thank you.